Teach me about the Great Lakes. Teach me about the Great Lakes. Welcome back to Teach Me About the Great Lakes, an exactly twice monthly podcast in which I, a Great Lakes novice, ask people who are smarter and harder working than I am to teach me all about the Great Lakes. My name is Stuart Carlton. We're here live at JASM 2022. That's right, the conference that must be enunciated carefully lest it get confused for something else. My name is Stuart Carlton, and I know a lot about media coverage of areas of concern in the Great Lakes region between 2011 and 2021, but I don't know a lot about the Great Lakes, and that is the purpose of this here show. And so we're lucky today to be joined by a whole bunch of people. The first person with me here is Carolyn Foley. Carolyn, what's up?
You just called me Ray from the Ghostbusters, and I'm cool with that.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure if you'd be cool. I wasn't sure how invested you would be in, like, the Egon thing.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
You're Ray. You're the heart of Teach Me About the Great Lakes, so that's fine. Yeah, and also joined today by, it's the legendary, the rare, she needs her own theme song, but she doesn't have it because I haven't written it yet. Hope Charters.
You're welcome. Hi.
The rare person who, well, immediately says you're welcome for appearing on our show. Well, thank you, Hope, for deigning to appear on our podcast, the one that you and I planned initially, and you appeared on the first two episodes of. And we will have special guests galore. Well, just one special guest coming up momentarily. But before we do, so teach me about the Great Lakes hero, Monty and Rose, the two piping plovers who settled in Chicago.
The cotton balls with toothpick legs.
Yeah, the cotton balls with toothpicks legs episode, I'm not sure, but it'll be in the show notes, so just look in the show notes for the episode number. Monty sadly died over the weekend. Suddenly, he was about 4 or 5 years old at least, and plovers, that's their lifespan, so it's not necessarily shocking, but it is sad. And then even doubly sad is Rose has not shown up yet at Montrose Beach this year, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a bummer, especially, they're really, really cute.
Yeah, they're really cute. It gets me thinking a lot about the powers of symbols, in all honesty. Like, we talk a lot about the power of, like, a symbol and how important that can be. For example, on our website at iicgrant.org, we have our value statement, right? And it's just like a statement. It doesn't do anything, but it's a powerful symbol of, like, who we are and what have you. And that's really powerful. In Monty and Rose, it's two plovers out of, there are dozens of them alive. But that symbol is really important. And so it's worth taking a minute to think about that. And so we'll have more on this in a future episode, I think. But for now, we do recognize it, and we're sorry. I was really inspired last year by the story of Monty and Rose. I hadn't heard it before then. And I think that it's something worth marking. So Monty and Rose, we will pour one out for you here at the Grand Rapids Brewing Company. But on to other things. So today, live, we have a special guest and some fun and some games planned. Our special guest today is Ed Verhamy, and we're going to bring him on. But first, we are going to have, what should we do, Carolyn? You read these and pick one. Our guest today is a great friend of Illinois Indiana Sea Grant. It's Ed Verhamy, who is a senior engineer and principal, I think, at Limnotech. Is that the right title?
Yes, it is. New title.
New title.
Congratulations.
Principal senior engineer.
Principal senior. So it's one title.
Yes.
It's a great title, Ed. Thank you so much for coming on about Teach Me About the Great Lakes. And so for those who don't know, Limnotech are the ones who manage our buoys, including, or not manage, that's not true, but they build and help deploy. We manage our buoys, and including the brand new
Chewy,
who was recently put out there, the brilliantly named, if I do say so myself, Chewy. So, Ed, how long have you been doing buoy stuff?
I've been doing buoys since 2010.
2010.
Yes.
So, how many buoys have you helped to birth in the 12 years since then? Birth, B-E-R-T-H. Birth, B-E-R-T-H.
We're up to, we're going to be close to like 40 to 50 buoys total.
Yeah.
At the end of this year.
No kidding. And so those are all through Limnotech, and y'all deploy them. Is it all in Lake Michigan, or where are they?
We're helping people do all kinds, like building buoys, selling them, putting them out ourselves. So they're in Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, Lake Erie.
All the lakes.
And even out west, right?
Actually, yeah, we have buoys on Crater Lake in Oregon and even down by San Diego.
Oh, man. So those are in prettier terrain. The ones in so which buoy's in the most beautiful location?
Oh, my God. Crater Lake, Oregon
Yeah, that's what
is stunning.
The Oregon coast is the most beautiful place I think I've ever been. Yeah.
But I'm going to jump in and say, Ed, you do much more than buoys. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, buoys they're just an interesting intersection of this science, engineering, and it really goes back to the modeling side. I mean, how do we understand how lakes work? So I think we can certainly try and make a mathematical model of the system, but how do we actually get live measurements? So I think that's where my job is sort of transition to, our understanding of how lakes work. We just need more measurements of it. So one thing I've learned is like the technology is advancing really quickly, right? And so what are some of the kind of new sensors that help you to get those measurements for your models? I mean, some of the new sensors, we've added web cameras, which, that's been really great to just see the lakes. We're also adding chlorophyll sensors. We can monitor harmful algal blooms. We can monitor oxygen. So I think we're just, trying to understand the weird parts of the Great Lakes. We kind of know the lakes do these weird things. Algal blooms on Lake Superior. How do we know they're there? We monitor them now.
So the buoys can detect algal blooms and things like that?
Yeah, definitely.
What sensor do you have? Like an algal sensor? What is the sensor for that?
So these are LEDs that are specific wavelengths.
No.
One's green and one's going to be blue. So for the blue-green algae, they're literally called blue-green algae. So,
right.
Yeah.
And so it senses that color. No kidding.
Yeah, it's, again, you'll think of all the different colors you can make with TV screens and LED technology.
Yeah.
And they can stick it in a tiny sensor, shine it at the water, and you can tell what it's absorbing and what's bouncing back. So
what? And so then you use that in modeling. What type of modeling do you? So how does this factor into modeling? I guess we talk about models a lot on this show.
Yeah. Math folks try to understand every part of the environment. We try and understand every drop of water, every pound of phosphorus. So these mathematical models are just translating physics, chemistry, and biology into a mathematical equation. It's really grounding our reality. And I think we're used to weather models from the weather. We all, weather modeling is based off of the same types of phenomena, chemistry, physics, and how is air moving. So, we have those same models for water.
One other thing, because we're at the Joint Aquatic Sciences meeting.
JASM.
Yes. JASM. Yes. You are a past president of
Yes.
International Association for Great Lakes Research, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Yes. And you're actually a pretty big part of making this meeting happen.
Yeah, I think this conference has been 5 years in the making. IAGLR, we just studied the large lakes of the world, including the Great Lakes. There's 3,000 plus people here that are studying fresh water in general. So certainly the Great Lakes contain fresh water. And so it's really great to bring together 9 different scientific societies that understand the, fish really well, that understand the benthos really well. So we have all these experts on every part of water, and they're here thinking about the Great Lakes as well. So I think it's really neat to see this intersectionality of all these scientists. And these people, there's 60 different countries represented here. So it's really a global expertise that is studying water. This is the nerdiest, geekiest science conference about water ever held.
That is perfect.
So Limnotech is your company, right? But y'all are expanding, right? And so you have this new deal. Is that right?
So I've been working at Limnotech for 18 years now, which is a long time, and I'm really happy to have been starting to work with all this technology, all these sensors, and you kind of reach a point, and this is kind of where we're getting into Elon Musk land here.
Elon Musk money by any chance?
Maybe he'll buy a new. So we just started a new company that's focused on technology. I think it's we think about where does tech come from. It's a very complex answer, and I think in the Great Lakes we haven't thought enough about how we build, develop, and source our own technology locally. I think we all think of Detroit as this that's where cars come from, but why can't that be where online nutrient analyzers come from as well?
It's such a good question.
Of course. Why isn't that the first thought in everybody's
It rolls
mind?
right off your tongue. So anyway, so we just started a new company called Freeboard Technology, which is just really trying to like have all of us work together. We all have these same problems on all the Great Lakes, and that technology element is hard for everyone. So I think the more tech we can see, the more we can attract talent, the more we can get kids and college students to be interested in staying in the Great Lakes and apply technology here. I'm all about it. So that's what Freeboard Technology is.
So that's real vague, which is fine, and maybe it's too early to know. But like, what do you mean by like applied technology? Is it new types of sensors? Is it new types of like computer model stuff? Well,
I mean, again, you just think of your iPhone. That's an
like
incredible density.
28,000 times a day, I think of my iPhone.
Incredible density of technology, and honestly, like if we could have that thought process to a buoy, these buoys would be the size of a Coke can and be everywhere. But, we don't have those yet, and we should. And the technology's there, and we just haven't got to it. So, instead of 2 yellow buoys, like we're going to be to like the
377 plus million.
Yeah, that's right.
This is really like R&D type stuff then.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're going to have, a lots more buoys, and we're already, just even after starting the company, we're going to be doubling the number of buoys in Lake Erie in the first year. So just if you think about technology for just a moment, we can just double and triple in size what we can do. So that's what I'm excited to be doing with Freeboard Technology.
Interesting.
So, Ed.
Yes.
We have a plan for today. We got the current president.
President.
Yeah, I don't rightly know when the gavel gets passed, but current President Andy Bramberger, who's from Environment and Climate Change Canada, we asked him a couple of questions.
Okay.
And
I'm nervous.
Yeah.
So this is like a dating game. This is like a.
It is like a dating game.
Yes.
You said you were going to make a Game of Nutrients theme song?
I did say that, and I know what it was going to be like, but the thing is I didn't actually make it because
But can
of
you,
reasons.
hum it?
I can't hum it, but the thing is, it actually reminds me, I was thinking about it, it's like a showdown, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is exactly like a showdown.
Yeah, maybe they got some Colt 45s, sitting there. Yeah, so let's just do this, It always seems like such a good idea, like in the cold confines of my office and recording studio.
Some people try to tell you it's not a great idea sometimes. But, all right. So, Ed, here's the deal. We're going to ask a question. You just go for it and answer. Then we'll play Andy's answer.
Okay.
And we'll see how similar. So, Andy, do you have Andy's introduction lined up?
Yeah, so my name's Andy Bramberger. I'm a research scientist with Environment and Climate Change Canada, and I'm currently the president of the International Association for Great Lakes Research until, I guess, sometime in June this year. My research focuses mostly on phytoplankton and algal ecology in large lakes, and a lot of that is looking at how environmental stressors, both natural and anthropogenic, so read that as climate change, I suppose, affect dynamics and structure of algae communities. My background, really, I did a lot of work in ancient lakes in Indonesia. So I'm a bit of a tropical ecologist, and it always makes me think of tropical ecology when I see the changes that we're seeing associated with our lakes getting warmer and warmer here in temperate systems. But I've also done work in the Canadian Arctic and Florida Everglades and basically freshwater systems all over the world.
Ed, of the Great Lakes, which lake, if any, is most negatively affected by nutrient runoff?
Wow, that should be an easy question. But, this is a game show, so
right.
Do you go for the easy answer?
That's
Is it? Are we thinking the same thing?
Is he trying to get as close to Andy as possible?
Go with your gut.
Or is he?
There's no winner.
There's no winner. There's always a winner.
Is this like Hollywood Squares? Is this kind
It's
of
similar.
like
It's similar. Less innuendo, hopefully, but we'll see. All right, give me your gut
Eddie
answer.
Squares. Okay, Lake Erie.
All right, is that negatively affected? Let's see what Andy said. Negatively affected?
In my opinion, Lake Erie is the most negatively affected by nutrient.
Right.
We can call Lake St. Clair, I guess, a pretty good lake. It's kind of like Lake Champlain and Lake of the Woods and Lake Simcoe. It's not
Thanks,
quite a great
Andy.
lake, but it's pretty good.
Right. So to be fair, when I asked Andy the question, I was like, you can include Lake St. Clair in there. And that's why he said Lake St. Clair was a pretty good lake, but not a great lake.
Yeah, that is not a great lake.
It's not a great. Is it even pretty good?
It is included in Lake Erie. Functionally, it's Lake Erie.
Wait, how does a lake get included in Lake Erie?
You got to divide the line somewhere.
Oh,
So,
right. It's kind of like Lake Huron and what's the other one?
Port Huron. Huron is the official governmental dividing line.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, Lake St. Clair is sort of like a delta.
Yes, it is. It's a beautiful lake, but it is a part of Lake Erie, I would say.
But not that great.
I mean, it's technically a part of the connecting channels, which are really cool features of the Great Lakes, but
the show isn't called Teach Me About the Kind of Cool Lakes.
I mean, it's not Teach Me About the Connecting Channels.
Right. No. That's a different show. Okay.
All right. Question two.
So exciting.
Which lake, if any, is the most positively affected by nutrient runoff?
All right, hold on. Now, before you say this, we're going to do a drum roll. So you need to wait for the drum roll, and then there will be the drum roll, and then you say it.
Lake Superior.
Lake Superior.
Ooh, all right, let's see.
No, wait for it. Let's hear your reasoning first.
I mean, if there was no runoff at all, it would be just like a body of distilled water. Nothing could live there.
Oh, so Lake Superior benefits from having some
Yes.
runoff nutrients.
I mean, if the Duluth estuary wasn't there,
yeah.
it would be a very sterile place.
So would there be like a lot of fish and stuff in there? Or would it be too?
No.
All right, so here's a question.
I mean,
before
there's
you get
already
to-
not that many fish in Lake
Don't
Superior
ask
to
that
begin
question.
with.
Don't do it.
All right,
Don't do it.
here's the question. Is Lake Michigan too clean? Some people think it is. Some people say that Lake Michigan is too clean.
Some people say that Lake Michigan is too clean.
But it's often said
Thomas Hook.
that at this point, Lake Michigan is too clean. Nutrient expert Ed Verhamy, would you say Lake Michigan is too clean?
You know, that's a relative question. So,
It's a yes or no question, actually.
the answer is yes. It is too clean.
So why would you say it's too clean? Based on what?
I mean, we've had an incredible invasion of zebra and quagga mussels, and they've cleared it up. So Lake Michigan and Huron are clearer than Lake Superior, which is hard to fathom.
And it shouldn't be. And so, like, the overall kind of biological productivity is reduced? Is that the deal?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hear what Andy said.
In some ways, that could also be Lake Erie, and it really depends on sort of what your focus is. As an algae person, it's really hard to say from an algae perspective. It's looking at harmful algae blooms. That's certainly what we would think of anthropogenically as a negative response or a negative impact. In other areas, those blooms have been occurring probably before people were around. Certainly, we've made them worse in a lot of cases. But Lake Erie also supports a really fantastic and valuable commercial and sport fishery. So, there's debates both in Lake Erie and Lake Ontario as to whether our phosphorus targets are too strict and whether further reductions in phosphorus, although they may help our algae problems, if that will negatively affect those very valuable fisheries. Again, the jury's still out on how tightly linked offshore fisheries are to nearshore phosphorus inputs. So, that being said, Lake Erie probably benefits in terms of walleye and perch production.
I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It can't be the worst lake and the best lake. You can't.
For the record, I agree with you.
Yes.
But it's an interesting point. It gets to that same thing we're talking about, right? Is that nutrients they're just a factor of an ecosystem, and so if there are more or less nutrients, it can change the way that it changes the way the ecosystem is, and sometimes that's good. It improves the fishery. In the case, that's what he's saying about Lake Erie because of the phosphorus potentially.
Yeah.
But then in Lake Michigan, there's not enough phosphorus, and so the fishery is reduced. But there are other considerations, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a stat about Lake Erie that I still to this day do not understand. They say that Lake Erie has more fish than all of the other Great Lakes combined.
Really?
I don't believe that.
But how do they live with all the habs?
I don't know. I mean, it must be like, I just think of a fish tank, and if you filled your fish tank with fish, we need to find a fisheries biologist and have them prove this to us.
Yeah.
Like they should be able to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. I have not.
No, we'll get Brian Roth on. We'll get Roth back on and ask him.
We need like a Judge Judy. We can hear both sides.
There we go.
I don't know if it's true, but
We'll have Judge Brian Roth. Oh, my God, this is the best idea I've had in quite some time.
Thank you, Ed.
Yes, we'll invite you back on, and Andy, and we'll have Judge Brian Roth, and then we'll do a total. I'm not even kidding. All right, great. All right, let's keep rolling. We're running low on time.
All right. Next question. There aren't many left. What is the coolest way to monitor nutrients?
the coolest way?
The coolest way.
Coolest way.
I'll just. Oh my God. I mean, for me, the coolest way is with an online nutrient analyzer that can process a analytical lab sample in the field and send that result to the internet and just show it on my phone within 20 minutes. So that is the, hands down, coolest way.
I'll be honest, that is the cool. I thought Chewy was the coolest way, but that's an even cooler way. Tied. It's tied.
To me, the coolest way to monitor nutrients is to look at what the algae are doing. And I say this for a lot of reasons. One is just because I feel like our reliance upon instruments is maybe a little bit putting the cart before the horse, or maybe overlooking some of the important connections and mechanisms that are at play before we just go out and dip a probe and look at chlorophyll. Even within that, looking at chlorophyll tells you a fair bit about how much algal biomass is in the water, but it doesn't tell you who's there. It doesn't tell you what they're doing. But we've developed over years really, well-documented tight relationships between certain algal indicators and nutrient status and a whole suite of other parameters within the lakes. So to be able to, look at those indicators, you're essentially asking the algae what they're seeing, and they can track those things either on a much more rapid timescale than we'd ever be able to go out and sample every day. Or on the other hand, you can look at how they'll assimilate and the communities will kind of coalesce or change over time. So it's a really nice way to look at sort of whatever time scale you want, whatever level of spatial resolution you want. And, they're fun to look at in a microscope, which to me makes it a cool way to monitor nutrients.
So this is fun because what we essentially have is these two poles, right? He's talking about this old school analog, looking at the algae to monitor the nutrients, which is good. And you're talking, I don't remember what you said because, but, and you were talking about this really high tech in your pocket situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the difference between the sundial and a smartphone.
Right.
I mean, they'll both tell you the time. One's just a lot cooler.
But I think the sundial might be cooler than the smartphone.
I feel like Stuart is still on the sundial.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute.
It's true. I mean, have you tried taking a Secedus measurement when it's cloudy? It doesn't work.
Yeah, ridiculous.
If you could tell our listeners one thing about nutrients in the Great Lakes, what would it be?
Wow. I don't know if anyone watches RuPaul here. RuPaul. So RuPaul has this, reading is fundamental. So I say nutrients are fundamental. I mean, they're a part of every part of your life. I think just thinking about algae are plants. They need nutrients. So they're fundamental to the growth, production, everything. So again, that's what I would say. They're a fundamental element.
Yes.
All right, I'll just say what Andy said. He was like, and we'll edit it in later, he was like, that they're not the be-all and end-all. And you're like, oh,
wow, that's
no.
like the opposite.
Yeah.
That it's not the be-all and end-all that everyone makes it out to be. Even with respect to harmful algae blooms, certainly phosphorus is what fuels the fire to a large extent. But when we start looking through decades or centuries that human beings have been in the Great Lakes Basin, the overwhelming signal that we see is one of climate and warming and lake stratification. And that even sort of overwhelms the signals that we see of cultural eutrophication and recovery. So it is important, especially in terms of absolute biomass or absolute production or how quickly that system is turning over carbon. But what determines who's there, what their sort of metabolic capabilities or community metabolic capabilities are, and the ultimate fate of carbon that enters the food web can be due in large part to climate change or stratification. So, it is really important to think about nutrients. It is really important to regulate nutrients. But it's important that we think about it in the context of the larger biological community and what other drivers might be changing the system that, we frequently overlook, I think, in our attempts to manage.
Is there anything else you want to share at this point that we'll maybe get into this episode?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, talking about nutrients, so I will say I'm very biased in that I only think about the P.
Title, there it is. Done and done and done.
And I don't think about the N that much, so P and N. The other thing that I heard the other day is someone told me, don't pee in my lake.
And also, we have some brochures called "Don't Pee on Your Lawn." So,
and it just sticks with me. I mean, there's that part of nutrients that's very relatable. So,
Ed, this has been really fascinating, and we've really liked hearing about all the different technology you use. Of course, we love the work you do with our buoys and things like that, and your thoughts on nutrients, in which you're an expert. And you have, I'll be honest, I think you won that game. Only because I didn't play.
I'm sorry, Andy.
It's fine. He's overwhelmed with diagler duties, right? It's heavy as the head that wears the crown.
Yeah.
I would like to note that even when it's between Andy and Eddie, Stuart still thinks that he is the winner.
No, I would have won had I played.
Absolutely not. He would have killed you too.
Well, I'm glad I didn't play then because I value my life. But anyway,
I will say, Andy, he's still cooler than me. Like, if you haven't met Andy, he is an awesome, cool, laid-back guy, and he talks so serious on this show. He's I don't know.
He's got his Iagler hat on.
He does.
Again,
he's got his
Iagler
hat on.
But that's actually not why we invited you on Teach Me About the Great Lakes this week. The reason we invite you on Teach Me About the Great Lakes is we asked you two questions. And the first one is this. If you could choose to have a great donut for breakfast or a great sandwich for lunch, which would you choose?
Oh, my God. So the first one's donut?
Yeah, a donut for breakfast or a sandwich for lunch?
I mean, Boston cream donut.
Donut for breakfast! Team donut!
So many people choose sandwich, and I am always disappointed.
Donut, absolutely. Boss. I mean, you ever walk in the donut store and you're like, at a glance, you can be like, there's my donut right there. You can just see it. It's, oh my God.
My soul donut is right there. No,
Yeah.
it's the one right away,
I
right?
mean, like Tim Hortons knows I'm coming. They got the donut.
Yeah.
It's hanging out the window.
If I'm in Ann Arbor, that's where you are, right? Ann Arbor? Yeah. And I want to get a good donut, Boston cream or otherwise. Where should I go?
Washtenaw Dairy. Washtenaw Dairy. There's like a classic donut shop. I mean, they don't have Boston cream donuts, but they have those fresh, you've eaten 6 and you're like,
yeah.
Where did these go? It's like those glazed, fresh donuts.
Yeah.
And those are really good.
Mom and pop.
Yeah, Washtenaw Dairy all the way.
It's the Mary Lou of, that's
but
wonderful.
probably better than Mary Lou. Sorry, Mary Lou, you used to
Oh,
be
Mary
good.
Lou is good. Oh, is it? Under new ownership. No, they're still good. Stop that. So the other thing we like to do, part of the goal of this podcast is, other than to not get fired, is to sort of help create a community around the Great Lakes and realize what a special and wonderful resource this is, right? And so one way we do this is by asking the second question. Is there a special place in the Great Lakes that you would like to share with our listeners? And what makes it so special?
I think, the Great Lakes for me is about, solitude and just, forgetting there's anyone ever alive ever. And I think that place is off of Door County, Wisconsin. You go, you drive all the way down Door County, you jump on a ferry, you're on Washington Island, you jump on another ferry, you're on Rock Island, and you're, in the middle of nowhere. And it's just, surreal, beautiful, beautiful space. So that's my ultimate favorite spot in the Great Lakes.
I know where my next vacation is to get away from my kids.
That didn't take long at all. That's the thing.
The whole island's a state park. You can camp on it. You can just be left overnight, and you're just stuck on an island. It's just beautiful. So
Done and done. Well, Ed Verhamy, principal senior engineer with Limnotech, and what is your deal at the new place? What's your title there?
President of Freeport Technology.
President of Freeport Technology and past president of IAGLR, the man who is doubly president. Thank you so much for coming on and teaching us all about the Great Lakes.
No, thank you. An absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, that was excellent. This, rather than have our usual post-show banter, we're just going to wrap up our first inaugural live episode. But first, a couple of thank yous, right? We have a couple of thank yous. Our first thank you is to Dr. Thomas Hook, Director of Illinois University Grant, for letting us come. Thank you, Thomas, for letting us do this. Our second thank you is to the Grand Rapids Brewing Company, home of some really delicious beers. Yeah. So thank you to them. And then, of course, thank you to the International Association for the Great Lakes Research, who have been a great friend of teaching me about the Great Lakes. And the broader,
Joint Aquatic Science Meeting.
No, there's that
There
one, but
we
there's
go.
the
The
conference
consortium?
the consortium. There it is.
Consortium of Aquatic Science Societies.
There we go. The consortium Cass. Like Mama Cass died eating a sandwich, right? So very appropriate for our
Goodness
show.
gracious!
Just saying. Anyway, so let's...
Getting kind of itchy, just leave folk music behind.
I think karaoke is next on Carolyn's list.
Teach Me About the Great Lakes is brought to you by the fine people at Illinois Indiana Sea Grant. We encourage you to check out the great work we do at iiseagrant.org and at ILIN Sea Grant on Facebook and other social media. Twitter, too. Teach Me About the Great Lakes is produced by Hope Charters, who's here tonight. Carolyn Foley, Megan Gunn, Irene Miles, Ethan Chitty is our associate producer, and our fixer, our super fun podcast artwork is by Joel Davenport. The show is edited by the hardest working person in show business, Quinn Rose. And we encourage you to check her work out at aspiringrobot.com. We should send Chewy there. If you have a question or comment about the show, send us an email, teachmeaboutthegreatlakes@gmail.com, or leave a message on our hotline at 765-496-IISG for Illinois Indiana Sea Grant. You can follow the show on Twitter, Teach Great Lakes. Sometimes we have polls, sometimes we don't. It depends on if Stuart or Carolyn wins the argument. Regardless, everybody, thank you so much for listening. And, of course, keep grading those lakes.